We begin in Spain, which had been one of Europe's worst-hit countries from the coronavirus. But now it's ended its national state of emergency in place since last October. A nighttime curfew has been lifted and domestic travel is permitted again. But each region is still free to impose its own containment measures. Critics say the new policy will lead to confusion and a possible new surge in cases.
The moment Madrid has been yearning for. At the stroke of midnight, freedom at last. Euphoric revelers packed into Puerta del Sol square to sing, dance, beat drums, and drink with their friends. It's been really tough, so we were expecting this turnout. We're super happy now that all of this is coming to an end. There were similar scenes across the country, like here in Barcelona, where pandemic-weary crowds kicked up their heels in the city center. It's really very moving. I keep thinking, wow, how great to finally be able to connect, sing, to have a good time, to say hi. It's an important moment. The emergency decree gave regional authorities a legal framework to enforce nighttime curfews and travel bans. Now, for the first time since October, people can move freely between regions. Spain's vaccination drive is picking up pace, and the infection rate has stabilized. Some worry that a domestic travel surge and increased socializing will lead to new outbreaks. But experts say the combined effect of past infections, restrictions, and vaccinations all served to turn what could have been Spain's fourth wave into nothing more than a ripple.
DW correspondent Nicole Rees is standing by for us in Madrid. Nicole, how did you experience the end of Spain's national state of alarm?
Well, it was certainly a hungry and sleepless experience for me, as outside bars were packed. There were a lot of people on the streets, and it was really difficult to find a free table somewhere outside on a terrace. This might be because it was a warm Saturday night, but obviously people were also celebrating, as we could see in these pictures. And then from midnight on, you could really hear the noise from close and far, which then led to a sleepless night for the police because they had to intervene here and there because of agglomerations. But also people celebrating, obviously, are also today sleeping in, and people who wanted to sleep, like me, were not able to because it was so loud outside.
Hopefully you get some sleep later. But are all regions in Spain now easing restrictions?
It's not really that straightforward. So each of the 17 regions now has the responsibility to see what measures they want to put in. So many of them will keep contact restrictions and a limit of people in bars and restaurants. But when it comes to things that touch fundamental rights, such as the free movement within the country, curfews or other issues, they have to actually get a permission from court. That was not the case before because the state of emergency was in. That was sort of a legal umbrella. But now we see situations like the Basque country wanting to keep the borders closed, but they can't because the court denied to. And in Andalusia, for example, they still will have a curfew because the court allowed them to. So it's pretty much like a patchwork situation at the moment, and this might cause some trouble in the future, like legal battles, for example.
Now, with all the shouts of euphoria going on, how loud are critical voices in the country right now?
Well, they have been there before the state of emergency was lifted, and they are loud, of course, because pandemic is not over. Here in Madrid, for example, we see one of the highest infection numbers still, although numbers have just stabilized across the country, but just about. I mean, the emergency units in the hospitals are still busy. It's actually not possible to speak to intensive care staff here in Madrid. I tried, but they are just still overwhelmed. And opposition politicians, for example, criticized Pedro Sanchez for not extending the state of alarm. They say that Spain now might come from a state of emergency to a state of chaos.
Okay.
So we'll see within the next few weeks how well the patchwork system across the country will work with the measures.
We will see indeed. Nicole Rees in Madrid, thank you. Now to some other developments in the pandemic. German residents considered fully immune to the virus will no longer be subject to nightly curfews or quarantines from today on. That applies to anyone who has had both doses of the vaccine or recovered after falling ill with the virus. Coronavirus infections in India have risen by more than 400,000 for a fourth consecutive day. The country's health ministry reported more than 4,000 deaths in the past 24 hours. Pakistan has received its first batch of 1.2 million AstraZeneca vaccine shots through COVAX. The global program provides vaccines mainly to developing countries.